Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Start is Near, episode 14. Today is March 8th, 2024, and I'm going to pass the feather to Mike, who does such an awesome job coordinating us all, herding us cats.
There's Sienna.
Yeah, speaking of, yes. I won't put her on the spot immediately, but yes, welcome back, everyone. Welcome, Sienna. We literally just started recording when you came in. Yeah, but get yourself settled, and then and Hope's here as well. We've got all the regular villains.
Hope dropped off for a second, but Sienna, we've been having
she'll
a
be
really
back,
cool meeting up until now, and with you here, now it's perfect.
Perfect.
You're on mute still, young lady.
You're on mute.
Sienna, you're on mute.
That was funny. It didn't show. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out all these different platforms. Each platform is so different. Yeah, I've had a kind of kooky day, so I'm happy to be here. I fell this morning and really hit my head and my back really bad. So I wound up. Yeah, it's okay. I just wound up like laying down for a second, then I just fell. I just went straight to sleep. So no, I'm fine. I'm just a little, dazed and confused right now. So, anywho, how's everybody else doing? I'm happy to have a quiet house right now because I typically have a husband. I'm usually in my bedroom because I usually have a full house. And right now, there's nobody in my house. It's very exciting. Even my dog. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do with all this space and time. Yeah, Pete took the dog out to West Virginia today to work on his development out there. And they are sleeping in the Tesla tonight, which just cracks me up. That's just the best car. I don't know if anybody here has a Tesla. It is the coolest car. You literally just put it in sleep mode, and it keeps the car perfectly at the perfect temperature. And hi, hello. Anyway.
As a drive-by Melissa in back in there. Hi,
Yeah,
Melissa.
I'm not here trying to sell Tesla, but it's just a very cool, it's an experience. It's not so much a car as an experience. So we just got it in December. So I'm still just kind of in awe of all the cool features that it has. It even has, Jamie, you'll like this. Do you guys have a Tesla? It has karaoke. And, my favorite thing to do is my daughter Sage and I, when the three of us are in the car, three generations, we put on karaoke, and the screen literally puts up the lyrics we usually do ABBA or something like that. It's the cutest things. My mom has really advanced Alzheimer's, but music, she can do music. So anywho, I'm gonna.
Oh, you're great, Sienna. You're amazing. And by the way, just on that note, but not to derail anything, the music, memory of music and smells seem to go a long way in those moments. Melissa, please, if you and Jamin want to speak, go ahead. You'll have to unmute, young lady.
I just want to say hi to everyone. Good to see all of you. Glad you're here.
You grace us with your presence anytime that you want to. Not sure if Jamin is ready to take it back, and I know Marco said he's out of sorts, but Doc, do you want to go for something here?
Well, I'm looking at episode 14 taking place, and knowing how Fibonacci counts things, it's a time for emergent behavior. So things are getting to the point of interesting. I'm looking forward to our Paul Beckwith after party, but I think that perhaps it's time to just have an after party with some influencer and get the ball rolling down the hill. I wonder also about the economics of what we're doing, and is there actually a foundation or a plan or anything that has accounted for costs and coverage of those costs. That's all.
No, and I don't know if Hope's back yet or not, but Sienna can probably speak to that as well. We've talked about that quite a bit. That actually is a perfect starting place for this recording and this conversation.
Well, I noticed one thing.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going to cut in here. One thing we're missing right now, Victor, is our broadcast. We're not broadcasting.
I don't think the broadcast bot is in here, so it's not quite live yet. But
yeah, we're not live yet. So
in the meantime, though, Sienna, go ahead. We'll get Victor in there. Yeah, we'll solve that.
Hi. Yeah, my thoughts on that. I'm more familiar with X than the other platforms right now, but once we start hosting spaces and get, I'll have to research the amount of views, but you can start getting money, significant money on X for content creation. And this would be very widely distributed content creation. So I would imagine we would, not immediately, but I think this is going to gain a huge following in a amount of time. So it's very conceivable start making money via that platform. I think YouTube is the same once you hit a certain number of views. And Zoom, I don't know about Zoom. I think I don't think you make money on Zoom. Do you? Just a thought though. It's
you're talking about like monetizing attention, right?
Yes.
Every yeah, you got.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
For the recording, by the way, Sienna, just you might as well explain that a little bit more in depth, because the hope is that people that don't understand these topics will listen to them later, right?
Sure. I've used X since November. And it has, all to do with the fact that I was just trying to find. It just seemed like the place where adults were having conversations, so that's why I went on there. It has nothing to do with any or any of that nonsense, because I don't buy into any of that stuff anymore. I think it's all a distraction. But what I've seen, the evolution of spaces specifically, the first space I was on was probably a little over 2 years ago, and it was because Andrew Yang was speaking, and it's the very first space I ever jumped on. But I saw his name and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I can be on, because I had spoken to him a couple times before. Just with ideas, the same kind of conversations we're having here. And I thought, oh, I can get on this call and listen to him. But then I realized it wasn't just listening to him. I could put my hand up, and I did. And within probably 5 minutes, they pulled me up and I got to speak one-on-one. And there were, hundreds of people on this call. This is over 2 years ago. I'm just surprised that it's taken this long to kick off. But so here's a thought leader, having a discussion with people who, whatever the topic, I can't even remember what the topic was. I think it was about, creating, ways to use creative outlets to kind of unite people. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect, because I'm an artist. So that was a conversation I had with him. And I wound up getting like hundreds of followers after that. And I just remember thinking, this is going to be the future, where people can have conversations and kind of turn the conversations into a morphing community. And that's kind of the message moving forward with the emergency, or the climate emergency forum, is the message is I reached out to the group yesterday via email, or via their request, but the gist of what I'm saying to them is this is a very specific inflection point for the history of humankind. The sooner we can start having high-level intellectual conversations about the issues that, the geopolitical and ideological issues facing humankind and Earth, the sooner we'll find solutions. So that's kind of how I approach them, and that's how I'm going to approach all of the person. Melissa very lovingly referred to me as a weaver of webs yesterday, which I really like that title. So maybe if we start talking, because I really don't resonate with the typical conventional type roles, if we could start, just coming up with names that are more kind of, I don't know, esoteric in nature. because I like being a weaver of webs. I like bringing people together, and I like creating a certain frequency or tone that makes people feel comfortable and at ease, and like they're in a safe place, and like the only thing that's going to come from it is beneficial understanding within the collective of whoever that collective is. So I've planned hundreds of events. I wouldn't even be able to count the events. I mean, very, very large events that I've pulled together. And the general, tone that I try to infuse is just what I just said. So that is the message that I'm taking forward to anybody I speak with. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that, just in case you're wondering. Yeah, Jamin knows the most about what I'm doing.
That's great. I did want to throw in one thing. What'd you say the word was? The web weaver? You got to unmute, my love.
Weaver of webs.
Weaver of webs. Okay, weaver of webs.
Weaver of webs. So
I don't know
I think it'd be fun if each of us could come up with what we feel our role is here.
Well, I was going to ask Doc Time to take this when you're ready, because he might have an idea.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it would be interesting for the group to come up with names as we learn each other and see what the roles are. Each time we add another person, we don't have enough roles, but in a way, this is a role-playing game to accommodate everybody on human scale at whatever scale the group grows to work on. So,
well, when you're ready, Gavin was raising his hand there, I believe, right, Gavin?
Yeah. I'm curious, Sienna, if you've been to Mark McCormick's space or not. You have? Okay. So in those, do you get the daily emails?
Yeah, I was on his space last night, and several of the people who were on there, or at least one person. I mean, there were different opinions at the end, but one person said, "I've been on a bunch of these, and this is the most powerful space I've been on so far." So the agreement was basically, this is almost ready to take live. I assume it's kind of in beta stage testing right now, but yeah, last night there was a definite sense of collective unity within the group. I think there were 7 or 8 of us. So yes.
Cool. Okay. I'm with you, and I'm thinking the same thing. My question is in regard to, so in the emails that he sends out, there's a woman that I just connected Mark with. Her name is Daring Facts, and she has a thing called a TCI. It's this 240 question survey, and she's got a model that begins to categorize people into certain relationality to one another. And I found it uncannily accurate. And if you want, I can send you the link to it, because I think that you're on point with how we're beginning to relate with one another.
So Hope and I saw Hope down there. I don't know if she dropped off.
I think she's having connection issues, seeing her,
yeah,
but I'm getting her back in. Yeah,
she's in a more remote area. So but Hope and I speak, multiple hours a day sometimes, and that's one of the things that we were just discussing, I think, yesterday is, I want to kind of rewrite the MBTI questionnaire, because I think it's, it's just outdated. But, once we are able to understand, and there's somebody else who brings up, I think it's Hope, brings up love languages, which is, 5 different, basically, and I'll let her describe it. But I love that idea. The more we can start to understand each other, what makes us tick, what triggers us, what leads to success. Yeah, the easier it is going to be to find solutions. Hope is Hope. I'm going to come up with a title for you, and it's Oracle. So only with that one.
I will add to that, Sienna, just for the recording before I pass it to Hope, that if you're ready, Hope. But I don't think we need to limit ourselves to just the love languages like you and Doc are talking about, and then Gavin as well. Like we're gonna expand beyond that in some way. But Hope, please take it if you're ready.
Thank you so much, everyone here. I have no idea what a oracle is. I'll have to look it up. It sounds like an
Oracle, Oracle, like in the Matrix. Oracle.
Oracle. I'm glad that my ears were hearing. That's I think Oracle. I don't know how true that is, but it definitely sounds better. Yeah, love languages, the 5 of them. And I'm sure that there's more. There's a beautiful book that somebody wrote, and know that we have different ways of expressing love. Now, oftentimes we can tell what somebody love language is because how us with love, and a lot of times we're always approaching their people with how we do it, and it might not be compatible with love language and languages onto each other. We don't understand, we're not receiving love, well, we're not getting love, and why love isn't working. But sometimes it's just like we step back and we actually learn what the other person's love language is. Like with my sister, hers is gift giving. It's my least compatible. I'm least inclined to want gifts. I am least inclined to express love with buying things and trying to buy everything off and give it to people. But this is how my sister deeply expresses love. And I'm like, don't get me anything. She feels almost like rejected, like I have turned down love. And for the longest time, I know that, just that I was unburdening her. And so we didn't learn what languages were, how we express them, and then share that with each other so that we can let each other love. And once we did that, it was really profound how it like changed with my family, with my friends, with all my other different types of relationships at work, how things changed, how we got along just by understanding how someone else expresses love. And I think the same thing, there's books on like how different people communicate and express their communication. And the more that we learn that, or how they're motivated, other people's motivation, how all these different things form how we relate with each other, how we understand ourselves, and how we understand others, and how that boosts up the relations to much more profound degrees I think is one of the most inspiring things I've encountered.
I am going to note, it seems that we're oscillating around, boosting communications and facilitating these groups today. It is, I hope you kind of naturally jump into that conversation there, but I like that. Mine are, well, at least out of the 5, which I think we can create more, but I think it was like quality time, and I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'm with you, Hope. Like, I don't want gifts. Like, I think Christmas was perfect in terms of like socks and underwear, long johns, but yeah. Go ahead, Lena.
Yeah, actually, Christmas I loved coal. I actually wanted coal because gave me coal, even if I was naughty, because we know I was like, you can compress coal, you have diamonds. Who wouldn't? That's like the ultimate gift. I give out to the whole neighborhood. Like I was like, but yeah, the 5 ones I believe are gift giving, act service, words of affirmation, and then touch. So some people actually touching is how they receive love. Touching is how they give love, but for other people, it can be very hard to receive or to give. And then I think the 5th one is so yeah.
Words of affirmation.
Word of affirmation, yeah. I think I said that. So words of affirmation, acts of service, gift giving, touch, and then. I feel like I'm just going to repeat another one, but if
it's okay. You guys, when you're ready, Lena has her hand up, but when you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just to make communication easier, I posted a basic article that I love about the 5 love languages in the chat. So anybody can look at that at any time. And I just wanted to pose a question, and that's for everyone to ponder. What is a gift? Does it have to be material? Because as I kind of explored, the 5 love languages, I realized gifts don't have to be material necessarily. A gift can be a dried flower, gift can be, you know, something from the heart, gifts from the heart that have little to no monetary value, as well. I love gifts, but I don't necessarily love expensive gifts. So, and I realized that because I was one of those people who also, I was like, gifts aren't my love language. And then I realized I do love receiving, and receiving love and allowing love can also be a gift. So let's kind of just look at what a gift can be, or just posing for everyone. What is the definition? What is a gift? That's all. Thanks. Just to look at that.
No, and I want to add to that before anyone can take it, but just to add to that really quickly, Lena, what we're describing here is that we might have a whole new rainbow to paint here in terms of like what we can articulate and elucidate in terms of how we communicate and respect each other just as human beings. This is kind of like a little bit of a roadmap for sure, but this group here, I'm sure can figure out, or I don't know, express differently that way. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna kind of, Jamin, go ahead if you would like.
Oh, well, I'll just add my 2 cents. I think the greatest gift we can give each other and to all of life on Earth is to, talk about and ultimately reach consensus on what do we want to do together, and, what goals do we want to achieve together, and how might we set about achieving those goals? Because I share the sense of urgency that Marco articulated earlier. And in terms of love, my goodness, I think we're right on the cusp of starting, the greatest planetary love fest in terms of number of people participating and unity of purpose. So those are my 2 cents. Passing the feather. Thank you.
Just gonna let it breathe for a heartbeat. I see Melissa's in here as well. Thank you. Marco, go ahead.
As far as expressing, well, not expressing love, or I guess is my expression of love right now for all of you is that all of you being here represents love in my life, and that everybody here without exception is an expression of love for me, and I'm overwhelmed receiving it at this point. With that, I'm complete.
I do want to acknowledge that Tad is in here. Haley, Hope, and Sienna. I was reading your last name, Tad, so I put the H in front of the daily. But yeah, Tad did make it finally. Hope, if you want to give him an introduction.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. I believe that if I were to do an introduction, it would probably take like 5 years. And because he is definitely an extraordinary human being, beyond, and I want to give you guys a chance to get a sense of him yourself. He does amazing introductions, so I think he could probably do much better job than my clunky self. But I just think he's a brilliant, intelligent, caring, and profound guy that I think you guys will all get a chance to get to know and what he brings to the table. And so with that, Tad, take it away.
I hope you can hear us, Tad. I'm not sure if you can, but welcome.
Well, I think he has a mask, so he might be in a position where it might be a little bit more tricky to talk at this
I think
time. So yeah,
he's back now.
There he goes. Yeah, Tad, just raise your hand whenever you feel like you want to talk, or unmute or whatever. But there he goes. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
You'll have to unmute, my friend.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
How are you, Tad?
Folks, it's very nice to meet you all, and I'm so grateful to Hope for inviting me. And I'm sorry I couldn't make the inaugural one. Unfortunately, I'm in the middle of a semi-emergency right now, which is that the cable went out, the internet went out, and I'm sitting in a waiting room at the cable company. A very unpleasant place, and obviously not the best place for me to introduce myself. So can I save that for some other time and just
absolutely, Tad? Yeah,
now?
absolutely. In fact, it might be better that we enrich your time and you can just listen and yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You guys are way more pleasant than the cable company. How's that for a compliment?
Amazing, my friend. Yes, thank you, Tad.
But I look forward to introducing myself and engaging with this group of provocative futurist entrepreneurs. How's that sound, Hope? As a characterization for your assembly.
Problem solvers in real time across the world. We're gonna save it. So together. I just want to. You didn't see earlier, but Lena had this really cool thing that above her head, all these hearts would just bounce from her mind and all over the platform as we were watching her talk. So I think that we could probably send that same amount of love to you and the cable company, for there to be much healing with your internet communications and everything beyond for your week, my friend.
We'll let him yield back to the waiting room. Sienna, go ahead if you like.
Oh, I don't need to take up the whole space. I will. I'm researching all the climate emergency groups, because there's a whole bunch of them, and I'm gonna just start reaching out to all of them. So just so you guys know, I'm stunned every time I Google climate emergency, and now that I'm following some of these people, that's my entire feed is basically climate emergency. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to start doing deep dives and just kind of reaching out to all these people. But I would also like to do the same. I've definitely mentioned, or Mark and I have been speaking about this, is trying to get Daniel Schmackenberger and Jamie Wheel and Charles Eisenstein and people like that. And maybe we could do them as kind of like a trio, because I think they all have compatible kind of conversations about universal logic and how we can come together. And I think we're all working towards the same goal. It's just starting to have cohesion within all the different kind of groups that are working towards this goal. So.
Jamin, go ahead, my friend. As the host, I don't think I actually have to wait for your raised hand, but go ahead.
Yeah, I love what Sienna just suggested. I think if we were to do some sort of a watch party where we get a panel of like the folks who Sienna just mentioned, and then immediately afterward have an after party, because one of my ongoing frustrations is we get to see these folks talk, but we don't have an opportunity to engage with them, and as an audience we don't have an opportunity to engage with each other. So I think it would be a real hit if Sienna, and if anyone can get these folks into a room together to have a panel discussion, interviews, Q&A, whatever. I think Sienna can. And anyway, with that, I pass the feather. Thanks.
I appreciate that confidence. I'm going to live up to it. I promise. I'm creating my dialogue. I'm creating, my kind of like And I don't work so much with a script, but it's just, you know, now that I have a better understanding of all the moving parts, it's going to be a lot easier for me to approach people. And what I'd like to recommend, and Mike and I spoke about this the other, or Madness, sorry, spoke about this the other day.
It doesn't
is,
matter. Yeah, everyone knows
Okay.
here's Michael anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, or Mike.
Well, I know there's a Michael here earlier. I just don't want to confuse.
Oh, Michael Prent. Yeah, we can differ between that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea of starting to use, you know, shared documents like Google Calendar and Google Docs, but within the Google Docs system, I would like to recommend that each of us maybe put the topics of us, and then kind of the thought leaders speaking of those topics in a Google Doc, and then, you know, I'll just start kind of branching out. You know, there's no put all our eggs in one basket, and we can just start reaching out to everybody that we want to start having after parties for. So I think if we just put out tons of feelers, you know, we'll fill our schedule very quickly, and then we can learn from it very quickly and have the greatest impact. Because truly, the sooner we can learn from this and fine tune the process, the better the conversations will be, the more following we will get, the more momentum. So that would be my advice. And I'm going to go get some food. So I will be back in just a couple of minutes, but I'm here listening. I just need to charge my phone.
There are 84 2-hour blocks in a full week, Sienna. Lena, go ahead, please.
I'm just curious what, like, okay, so names like David Schmatzenberger, and they've actually talked together before. And I guess my question is just what the leverage for them. They're pretty, like, you know, like what will draw them to our meeting? You know, like I just feel like that would have to be, they're really busy and they're really like, I mean, they're top notch. So I'm just curious how you guys are going to, or me, we, you, us, all of us, how it's gonna, what the leverage would be at this point. Like, I think pinpointing, like having an agenda, but also having like a really strong topic is going to be key too, because I don't think they would actually, I'm just wondering, is there going to be a topic that will kind of bring them in?
Yeah, this is all a work in progress, Lena, the way I see it. Yeah, I mean, my background is in doing this exact kind of thing. It's like finding people, you know, I used to organize events with members of Congress, members of Senate, sometimes celebrities, but it's basically just the way you approach these people, the message that you're sending. I'm very good at kind of coming up with the messaging that, and once they understand what we're trying to do.
So what you're telling me is there's no message yet. The message is being like created.
Well, my message is a very, very, very broad, high level message. I think we need to get some momentum within these after parties, and then we'll be able to, you know, that's why Paul Beckwith, maybe we could start with the people we have direct connections with and then build upon that. But we can at least start putting the feelers out so that we don't just look like we're starting from scratch. You know, I'd like to start, you know, when I want to talk to somebody, I just find them. Andrew Yang, you know, I found him 3 different times. Marianne Williamson, I found a couple times. I just go where they are and I show up and I wait until they can speak to me. And then they start talking to me. They're like, oh, this person actually, you know, cares and is rational and, you know, has like some vision. So that's the approach I take. And I'm very persistent and I'm very resourceful. So yeah, we can collectively come up with the message that we want to put out there. That's Jamin and I have been working very closely on that. So yeah, yeah, what Mike and I were talking about is just kind of trying to get everybody on the same page. So we're going to try to start, you know, sending all those things in the Google Docs. And then, you know, if anybody says, oh, that's the wrong message, you know, they can, put in a note or whatever. I mean, that way we're just always continually on the same page. So I have a lot of people arriving in my home, so I'm
No, it's okay, Sienna. You and
Sorry,
Lena
I
have
just-
raised up. No, Lena, hold on, wait, please, because you've raised up all of the hands with your question and with Sienna's answer. So
Great.
I will yield mine. I don't know if you want to respond to Sienna, but it will be Marco next, and then Jamin, and then Victor.
Well, I want to listen to the responses. My question, yeah, yeah, I just want to listen.
I think.
Marco, go ahead. Yeah.
I think what you're looking for, Lena, and is you're looking for what's our hook right now, and our hook is
Yeah.
our hook is the after party and turning their watch parties and after parties
Cool.
on their platform, going to them or bringing them here and
Really?
turning their viewers that they don't interact with now really into a community that they
Okay.
can interact with.
Ah,
And
okay.
bringing those communities into action to solve the problems that we need to solve.
Yeah. That's brilliant. That summed it up. That cleared up completely. Cool. Thank you.
Jamin, my friend.
Yeah, it just occurred to me. Oh, Victor had his hand up before me. Go ahead, Victor.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that. I missed that one. Go ahead, Victor. Depending on his connection, it sometimes takes a moment for audio to click on. Yeah, Victor, go ahead.
Wow. I just wanted to reflect back to Tad. Hey, Tad, I'm in San Jose, and my internet has been an absolute dumpster fire this last couple of weeks. I think there's something broader going on. Second is Sienna, I trust you. That's all I wanted to say. I trust you and your abilities.
Appreciate
I
that.
like
Just know
the
that
discerning
I have
individual.
zero personal agenda, and I just want to see the best outcome for everybody and for the planet. Period. I have nothing to sell here. I'm here because of just kind of a very deep yearning to do something significant with the cumulative experiences that I bring to the table. So that's it. I am going to go get some food.
Jamin, my friend.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Sienna and build off what she was saying a few minutes ago, because I think one possibility is to organize a roundtable which can be centered around Paul Beckwith and his amazing work, including, the Daniel Schmachtenbergers, Charles Eisensteins, etc. And basically the pitch to Paul would be, hey, look, we've got an idea which can expand your audience significantly. We think, you've got tens of thousands of people following you. We think it should be tens of millions, and we think we have a pathway to get there. And, let's talk, right? And in fact, my next email to Paul, if he doesn't answer my one I sent yesterday morning, could be to introduce Sienna. Say Sienna is working on an amazing, gathering together an amazing group of thought leaders, and she wants to include you. So I'm passing on the contact. You guys take it from there. Passing the feather. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to also thank Victor again for how you can do that effort. Well, maybe it's not effortlessly, but I just really, really appreciate you, Victor. Doc, I'm not sure if you want to speak or if you want to stay in your capacity there, but it's up to you, my friend.
I was scribbling some notes, so I'll pass for now and catch up later.
Excellent. Michael? No, you're good right now? Okay, very good. All right. Marco?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add right now. We know the direction we're going, and we just need to, get our first block, our first, I guess influencer right now, we'll call them, for for the first, watch party, after party, and I think once we get the first one down, and there'll people line up for them.
I will say before I pass it to Michelle, and thank you for coming in, my friend. It's going to be nice to hear your voice in a moment. But so Lena can listen to this in the future, because I know that she had, and anyone else as well, but she had to go and run some errands. So what I was going to say before her and Sienna raised all those beautiful hands is that essentially, everything we've talked about today before the pre-podcast or the pre-recording part, and what I'm sure we'll talk about in the after party, is we are offering might not be the right word either, but we can go back to like earlier, people can reflect on how we were talking about growing the love languages and so on and so forth. And we went from communication in the pre-recording to where we're at now. A lot of this, as Sienna had said very eloquently, just kind of want to change the world, not any for sale. What we're kind of aspiring to give to these people as a gift is a way to communicate their messages and communicate their gifts and their talents to a broader audience, or to their own natural audience just to start, but to the audience that they already have and the audience they will have in the future. And just literally, we're offering an efficacious package that is going to, as we said, we're making it up as we go along, because we're inventing new strategies in real time here and new communication. But the idea, or the hope, I suppose, would be, and hope we have our guiding star here, it will come down to, I think they're just going to be naturally taken in, anyone, whoever we start with, it doesn't really matter. They're going to be naturally taken in by us, because they'll see just the truth of what we're doing in terms of broadening their relationship with their existing audience, but then certainly taking them to places that they haven't been before, that we haven't been before, in all the ways that can get across. And I understand Jamin's and Marco and anyone else, James Desmond and so on and so forth. I understand that kind of little corner of the whiteboard, not a small corner by any stretch of the imagination, but the corner of the whiteboard that thinks that those might be the first people to go and offer this to, because once we're taking care of some of those things, we have so much more free time and again, less urgency, like we've said before, in terms of how we can grow this forward, continuing on. But again, I will yield and pass the feather to Michelle if you're ready. And if not, anyone can take the feather at any point. Jamin, go ahead, my friend.
I'll jump in there since no one else has a raised hand. So what's occurring to me is so after we do the whole, let's say roundtable or whatever forum, and then we go into after party mode, at any point, any of the invitees to the forum, any of these, big thought leaders with significant audiences could go into their own Zoom space with up to 100 breakout rooms and, kind of have the Daniel Schmachtenberger room within the after party Victorian mansion, right? With multiple Zoom spaces, right? It's just kind of a thought. And then people can, of course, bounce around from room to room and, experience all the different activities. And we've talked about a number of different formats for activities, from speed networking to Glassbeads game to World Cafe model to Q&A to, topic rooms. We've done a lot of brainstorming on what we want to do with Paul Beckwith, the Paul Beckwith after party. And we've speculated on having a whole number of Zoom spaces with up to 100 breakout rooms each for those different activities. So happy to, to recap that if anyone would like, but anyway, passing the feather, just wanted to speculate on some of the possibilities.
You raised Doc's time, or Doc's hand. Don't worry. Go ahead, Doc.
No, it makes me wonder what you're thinking about in terms of retention over time for the groups that are formed. Is this going to be a regular thing where people keep coming back and getting put in different groups? Or is it going to be ongoing groups of the people that meet each other there? Or what's your vision for how the groups are going to come together and be formed that become the subgroups to the topic?
Jamin, that's all you, my friend, or at least to start.
Sure. So let me first see if I've understood the question correctly, which is like, let's say we just bring together, Paul, Daniel, and Charles. Paul Beckwith, Daniel Schmachtenberger, and Charles Eisenstein. And let's say it just goes really, really well, and they feel like they're just starting to break ground on some really important topics, like how do we stop global warming and reverse it, et cetera, et cetera. To the extent that that goes well, I would be delighted if the three of them would be game to make it a recurring thing, once every couple of weeks, once a month, once a week, whatever frequency. If I've understood your question correctly, Doc, passing the mic back to Doc.
On human scale, though, how's it supposed to work for the individual? How much retention do you expect? Some people are going to want to be every day participating in this type of talk group? Are there going to be, what sort of measurements of levels of activity do you have envisioned?
Yeah, so I didn't envision every day. The three possible levels of frequency that I'm envisioning are either weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, depending on everyone's preferences in terms of the speakers. Of course, the audience that'll show up will be whatever audience shows up, right? And I think to the extent that three of them share this tremendous sense of urgency, which I believe they do, my hope would be that they would say, hey, let's do this once a week. Let's, do this until, with that frequency, that level of commitment, until we've got this whole thing solved. And
is there a superstructure that can explain what this whole thing that needs to be solved is, along with the dynamics of the aspects of who's working on what, that would serve as a primer so that maybe there can be courses for high school students and interested people that could learn what's going on and catch up to speed on some of the topics? I have a whole different idea of what SRM is when you mention it, but I don't necessarily think it's butter on the bread. And we'll talk about that another time, but I'm interested in watching the growth patterns and the decay patterns that come about. And if you assemble a big group, say 400 people, 2 weeks later, how many people of those group are residual, or is that too short a time frame? A year from now, how many people do you have to have activated? And what would it mean to activate those people?
Mike, you go ahead, and then I've got some thoughts whenever.
Well, I'd kind of like to hear your thoughts first, only because Doc and I similarly had a question like this, I don't know, 400 and some odd days ago. But go ahead.
Okay, so a bunch of questions got posed there, which is great. I love all your questions, Doc. So if I don't answer any specific one, please reiterate it.
You guys just go back and forth, and when you're ready, pass it back to me. But keep going, because this is amazing.
Okay, very good. So in terms of education, I envision that a sort of a syllabus where, for example, a 14-year-old could jump in with no prior knowledge, get up to speed on, what is heat, what is temperature, what's the relationship between the two, and go through all the basics that would lead to a basic level understanding of global warming. And then from there,
that doesn't need to be age dependent. Everybody can use that.
Oh, 100%. I was just using a 14-year-old as an example. In other words, you don't necessarily have to have a college degree in order to, get up to speed here. So we make it kind of that basic because heat is basic and so is temperature. And then from there, the student could then graduate to the next level, which would be to understand, we could talk about solutions to global warming. What might we actually do? And I envision in that portion of the syllabus, or the list of courses, and these could be anything from 15 to 20-minute videos to hour-long lectures, etc. We could, for each possible solution, partial or complete, to global warming, there could be a course on what is the maximum possible impact that specific solution could possibly have if it were fully implemented, right?
We are now building a model of how we might take that approach. What I'd love to hear is somebody who can explain to me what's included in the current models and how they measure it. But Marco's got his hand up, so Marco, come on in. Marco muted.
Marco, can you hear us?
Oh yeah, but Mike's before me. I'm sorry. I forgot I was muted. I don't want Mike to
Well,
lose
not to
his
speak
thread.
for Mike, but I think he would say, hey man, if Doc Time's calling you out to the dance floor, come on and dance.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
exactly what I would say. Yes. Leave my hand for last, guys, please, because you're on a roll.
Oh shoot! So now I kind of lost. Can you rephrase again, Doc, or just repeat? I'm sorry.
Essentially, we're building a model for a system that is emergent that we haven't created, but climate science already has a model. Can somebody explain to me what they've included in the model and how those measurements work? I mean, not here now. I know some of what's going on, but I'd be real interested in somebody who knows what's in the model that generates a lot of these climate projections, just as a scientist who's interested in atmospheric chemistry.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's like like Jamin was just talking about. We can put this in terms that for anybody any age with any education can understand it, and I feel and for a number of reasons, and I'll take my responsibility here. We've discussed putting some kind of course together, some kind of structure together that videos that people can watch for those that learn that way, papers for those that learn that way, and we haven't done that, and that's what we need to do. That's one of the things we need to get the teams together and put the people on that, so that when people like you ask Doc, we can say, here's the link, here's the link, here's the link, and that's one of the things that we.
And that's actually something to have as group activity in the very first meeting that you bring group together, is have everybody take a small responsibility for researching some piece of the puzzle or for just getting caught up in an area, so that as we have more discussions over a few weeks, we can see who the real superstars in the audience are, not the people who are out there preaching it, but the ones who can rationalize it, come back down and speak to what's in those models and what's going on. But if we're doing this in parallel, we're not at the parallel point yet. I'm not saying divert our attention, but if we're looking at what we're doing with global warming and in parallel address the political system and the banking system and the judicial system with different people focused in the same organizational form, we can come together and maybe have meetings on a congressional type level because we have people who can actually work to propose solutions. And now it's a choice of choosing the pieces that will make the best one.
Yeah, Doc, that's exactly where we're at now. That's the human intelligence and the Chizzy coming together. That's what we're assembling. That's what we haven't, before we were focusing on getting the critical mass, not realizing the critical mass is already out there, just not organized.
But we have a critical mass here for the organization
Correct.
of that next level.
Correct.
So if we are what I would call a second order group, the organization of people who are here through the first 14 episodes becomes the foundation of organization for that next level group, which is to build a superstructure for the organization that Jamin just discussed. And how to teach from that platform and how others can duplicate in similar form so that we can train the bots on the forum and the AI can help us to make the materials that we teach.
Jamin, go ahead, my friend. As I said, I was waiting for you guys to pass it. And Michelle, I know you can't control yourself in terms of your controls on your phone, but I love seeing the vote for a minute. And Victor, if you're still here, thank you for your presence. But Jamin, go ahead.
No, but Victor had to drop off about 15 minutes ago or so. Now, for those who don't know, Doc Time has a PhD in chemistry. And so I'm actually excited to give just a little brief overview of both how I look at global warming and how I think it should be looked at. So if you think of the Earth atmosphere system with, the Earth at the center, then, you've got the sun here with all these, with close to constant heat load, radiation load, I should say. And then of that inbound radiation, whether from clouds in the atmosphere or whether from polar ice caps or Greenland or other, glaciers, diminishing as they all are, of course, but all of these things.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jamin,
Go ahead, Dr.
that's not ground that's in debate at this point. I know the model. I want to know what's packed in the model that's used to how they measure the warming. I mean, I know it's through snow melt or glacial melt and other things, but the SRM program is about spraying chemtrails or cloud.
No.
That's where a lot of the misinformation comes from. And solving it here, that I'm talking about spreading that information out so it can be distributed widely. And if I'm having problems about what I understand, I'm at a pretty good understanding of climate science, so I'm very willing to have you explain that to me. But I think that sort of conversation is not meant for the start is near.
Well, what I was about to say is actually would probably take maximum 5 minutes. And I think
go for it.
It might be pretty instructive. So here I'm screen sharing. I was starting to draw a little picture here. So I thought I was screen sharing a couple of minutes ago. I apologize. But anyway, so let's say this black line represents the outer boundary for the Earth atmosphere system. And let's say this blue circle in the middle represents the Earth. And imagine that these hashed areas on the Earth represent ice, Greenland here perhaps, glaciers here, these little circles. And then of course you have clouds. So all of the things that are ice reflect sunlight back into space. And, you know, bright white clouds reflect sunlight back into space. And so the net reflectivity or albedo of the planet is, you know, on the order of, I think, right around 29.5%, something like that. Whereas it used to be maybe around 31%. And so that's the percentage of incoming sunlight that gets reflected back into space, right? And so it never even warms the Earth to begin with. The balance, you know, a little over 70% warms the planet. And then that warmth, that radiation that the planet absorbs, that heat that the planet absorbs, it tries to sweat out through outgoing infrared or blackbody radiation. And the Earth atmosphere system used to do a pretty good job of letting that escape, but then enter the greenhouse gases. And we've now got a situation where I'm just shading in on the outer layer of the Earth atmosphere system, greenhouse gases. Those then cause a significant percentage of the outbound radiation to get absorbed and re-emitted back to Earth. So the heat is getting trapped. So there's really two ways to cool a planet with an atmosphere. One is to increase its albedo, increase its reflectivity. And the other is to reduce the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So right now we're overheating. I'd have to look and see what the current estimates are, but it's, you know, it's on the order of, you know, 2 to 3 or even more watts per square meter. Watts is energy as a function of time, joules per second. And so this is an amount of, you know, multiply, you know, whatever the number is, let's call it 3.5, for example. Multiply 3.5 watts per square meter times the area of the Earth, the entire area, in terms of square meters, and then you get the total heat load, which is on the order of several dozen boops. A boop is the total amount of energy consumed by humanity in 1 year. So, you know, and that's a big number, that's a big amount of energy. So, you know, the amount of energy that humanity burns in terms of burning coal and oil and firewood and dung and, you know, wind power, you name it, the total power consumption of humanity, multiply that by several dozen, and that's the rate at which the planet is overheating in a given year. Now, what becomes of all that heat, that's now the subject of ocean modeling, ice melt modeling, et cetera. But the, you know, and that is where I think the foundation, the focus, the starting point should be, is how much net heat in terms of joules is the planet net, you know, absorbing every year. And it's a very large amount, and it's increasing year over year. And that's the source of the problem. Instead of focusing on the heat, a lot of focus is put on temperature, and people talk about temperature fluctuating here and there, you know, but if you bypass the conversation about heat, which is the driver, then you're completely missing the boat. In fact, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, organized by the United Nations, was put together in the 1980s precisely because the group that preceded it was actually looking objectively at the rate of planetary overheating and saying, listen, we're going off the cliff, Thelma and Louise style. And that was in the 1980s. And the consensus of the governments of the superpowers at that time was, wait a second, we can't have this information getting out because people will freak out and demand that we stop burning, you know, oil and coal. So instead, let's form the IPCC, basically to muddy the waters and to make the situation look far less dangerous than it actually is. Passing the feather.
Doc, do you want to speak on that at all before I go?
Not really. Go ahead, Mike.
Yep. So if I can marry two of these things, especially for posterity. So Doc and I, and there's actually one of our original recordings, which I will say again for everyone who listened to it. I did not understood, or I had not understood at the time, Doc's formula in terms of his channel. But there is a kind of encapsulation there in terms of us talking about education in Hogwarts. Okay, so there's two kind of things I'd like to bring up for any geniuses that are listening to this in the future, or certainly any of us who are here speaking now. So Jamin, like, I don't know if I'll ask this question first and then I'll go to my second point, but do you kind of understand the idea that that model is fallible in a very large way at this point? Not that I disagree, I'm just saying it's fallible.
Which model are you referring to?
Kind of what you just articulated.
Well, what I
mean, I think, yeah.
But what I articulated is a simple framework for heat balance or energy balance, right? And you know, heat energy is one of the basic fundamentals of physics. And so I don't know what is fallible about doing a heat balance. Heat coming into a system, heat leaving the system, what is the difference between those two quantities? And that's the net heat that's either net absorbed or net lost by the system. You know, coming from a family of scientists and engineers, I'm staying now in the home of my late uncle, Frank T. Shively, PhD physicist, whose work contributed to 2 different Nobel Prizes in physics. You're talking to someone who believes in physics, that physics is real and that heat is real and that the mathematics of heat balance are real. Now, for any model, garbage.
I was just asking you to articulate that, Jamin. Trust me, I wasn't like I in the same way that maybe I'm speaking for Gavin, but in the same way he might reach for receipts. I just wanted people to know that we're, as much as this is a very complicated topic, and I do kind of love the back and forth between you and Doc Time, but what you just said is so important for the future articulation in terms of what my second point was going to be, but I'll wait. Sorry, Jamin.
Oh, no, I pretty much made my point. I passed the feather. Thank you.
Okay, I've been admonished by Hope more than once that I need to stop doing that, and Doc Times admonished me as well.
Marco.
Okay. Go ahead, Marco.
I do get what you're doing, Mike. You know, I know, Jamin, you're talking to the people in the room here, and Mike's trying to always make sure that this is going to be valuable, not just for us in the room, but for the people that view it and for those that are less informed. So I appreciate the effort, Mike. Yeah, definitely. I see you.
Well, I appreciate being seen, my friend. And okay, so then to the next, going back towards Doc Time, when I kind of failed at my one opportunity to be hosted on Doc Time's channel at the time, and I didn't really understand quite how that foundation was working. We're going back to, like, Jamin, you brought up 14-year-olds. It really doesn't matter what age. Anyone who's talked to me for longer than 5 minutes knows that I can just start going down the education rabbit hole and whatever we want to call that. That's even not a great moniker for our conversations. But we ourselves, so it's like a 2-part kind of puzzle. I mean, it's much more complicated than that, but there's another part to this where we wouldn't have to be working so hard at this if we can figure out how to impart this. And I know Doc Time and I have made the education joke about Hogwarts. We have no shortage of teachers. We have this, not a shortage necessarily, but we are lacking students. I don't know what each of anyone who has things to teach here, what kind of classroom size they'd like, but we're not even close to that maximum limit, I don't think. And so everything that you said, Jamin, if we can articulate that and elucidate that to people that, again, I'm 35, so I'm kind of trapped in the middle, but if we can elucidate that to the cohort up and coming, we're not going to have to like, we're going to be shown things, I suppose. I'm not sure if this is landing, so I apologize.
A lot of what I see Mike talking about and what I see Chizzy is forming is a group thought experience that is variable, emergent, and needs to be focused down to a topic that makes sense to people, but is totally duplicable by other folks in other areas. And I'm guessing that there's probably 1,000 other groups worldwide that have this many people that meet regularly on some platform that have some focus, but not our focus. So the idea of what can be done on an organizational level is a fundamental of the group theory. But to get to the point where we're community, we're going to have to develop an economic system. And what we're trading is love and information and mechanisms and all sorts of things. But we're not on a basis set where continuing the current world system is going to help us in any way, shape, or form. So stopping things like global warming is important of the sense of reality, approaching the entire system with new dynamics that realistically addresses the mass balance of gases in the air is something that just hasn't really been looked at, even though I've been around this game for, probably 30 years, because I didn't start out in the atmospheric chemistry game, but I appeared in a movie, What in the World Are They Spraying? Back in 2009, talking from a perspective of science, and was totally naive to how the social media worked at that time. And my 15 minutes of fame translated into just getting off all channels of communication because there were people who didn't care what it was. They didn't like my opinion and they were going to let me know all the time. And so I'm more interested in the mechanisms of flow and the dynamics of how groups build. And it's important that people within the group get to know each other and we can rely on the core structure, because anybody who hears from somebody talking about what's going on with Chizzy in the area of global warming should be on page with the same information that we know is solid. And I think what Mike's referring to as a dynamic is maybe university information, period, is not solid. Okay.
No, that's it, Doc Time. I mean, I've ever since I heard you speak, a couple years ago, I mean, not just you, obviously, but you reaffirmed everything that you just articulated. Oh my goodness, we can just we can do so much. I don't know, better is not the right word. We're not playing the same sport. Like, that's why I think Mark's work is so important with the University of Alberta. And if we just have to do Canada first, or Sienna and I have talked about the States. No, Michael, go ahead, please. You're on the roll, my friend. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, wise words, Stock Time. Thank you for putting that in perspective. I really agree with quite a bit of what you said. A lot of it is education, but there's going to be those 11-year-old graduates of college that we can appeal to and provide a safe space to work in. Those geniuses that doesn't matter what their age is, they're out there and they're going to find us. And if we can provide a safe space to, I don't know, just to enhance their learning and teaching.
Michael, if I may, they can't find us if we're not here.
Yeah, we're here, but
no, go ahead. Sorry, I just want to.
Every time an 11-year-old graduates with 2 degrees in physics, we should be welcoming them into our group. That's my thinking. So thank you all.
There's absolutely no disagreement there, Michael. And as Doc and I have talked about, and all of us in some different capacity have, like I said, I had one-to-ones with most of you, but that's kind of the thought process, is that how can we figure out to be properly present or efficaciously present? I'm not sure. Go ahead, Sienna, you've got me. You got to unmute, my friend.
Yeah, you're muted, Sienna.
My phone just, it's not a quick process. I just have to keep hitting the button for some reason. And my husband is trying to call me, and I've got like kids around me, but I just wanted to add briefly, I've mentioned this like a little bit before, but the idea of, kind of following on, sorry, I have so many distractions right now, but reaching out to, high schoolers basically, who are in the sciences and, whatever our topic is, but we can reach out to the communities. I mean, I happen to live in a very, very affluent area with some of the best school districts in the country, and the kids, and I have 3 teenagers at home, so I know the extent of what they are processing right now. And no, they didn't graduate, when they were 11. But if we can start, kind of engaging the next generation, because this should matter to them more than it matters to us, truly, because this is the life that this is the world that they're about to be inheriting for their kids. So that's kind of the conversation I just wanted to put out there. I think that we can start branching out to high schoolers too. And I'm very, very comfortable doing that. It's actually a fairly easy process. I used to be a kind of a school community organizer. So you just find, people within whatever high schools you want to target, and you can put it out there, the message out there, and if they start helping with the process, if there's administrative roles or anything like that, we could actually give them student service learning hours, and then it's a win-win for both sides, because they need those hours in order to graduate. And if they could, gain those hours by, it's essentially almost like an unpaid internship. That's the way I would look at it, and we could get the best and the brightest.
Go ahead, sorry.
That's it.
No, I know. Hope's going to listen to the recording and admonish me, and I know Doc Time's taking notes every time. There's probably a separate scorecard for every time I interrupt. What I was going to say was that Maria Montessori, before she died, she actually wanted middle school, like let's say between 6th and 9th graders, to run a farm and switch positions every day and stuff, right? And that be the gap between, yeah. And we're gonna, honor that kind of stuff as we can, because I don't think we're limited to just the visions of the past, as you called Hope the Oracle earlier. But yeah, you got me. Sorry.
My 2 oldest went to Montessori, or 2 different Montessoris. I wound up closing down the first Montessori because of, the staff was terrible. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Montessori and Waldorf, actually. Probably more so Waldorf than Montessori, because they had so many problems with Montessori. But
you have Steiner fans here, Sienna.
Yeah, I think the sooner we can get kind of the kids of the world engaged in these conversations, and they feel like they actually have some say in their future, instead of all the garbage they're being forced right now. I mean, I just spent 10 years in the public school system, and granted, it's one of the best school systems in the country, but there is some, kind of like, I don't know, I have a lot to say about the public educational system right now. It's archaic, and some of the things the kids are learning, they're going to be obsolete by the time they're out in the workforce. So yeah, I'd love to have that conversation too. Maybe we get some educational
Absolutely.
leaders in here.
Well, Marco, I am going to pass it to you, but as I pass it to you, I'm going to suggest again, we did start at 3:01, and I kind of like the idea of if everyone wants to speak a couple more minutes each, that will take us to about 4:40 or something. But then we can have the after party or the afterglow. But Marco, go ahead.
Well, I kind of feel at this point like and education, the quality of education or the lack thereof is definitely been a lifelong thorn in my eye. But we kind of keep looping back into that because we all know that needs to change. But in order for us to have time to change the education system, we have to get back on focus to the mega crisis that need to be solved to allow us to have children to teach, to have a planet that's livable to fix this system. I mean, we have to work on it at the same time. And again, it's the same thing, but we need to come to the consensus, and we need to get the groups together, and we need to, start doing the work that gets those the bare minimum done to keep a survivable planet. And with that, I'm complete.
Sienna, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, that's kind of why I was talking about, trying to get the polymath level thought leaders, like the Charles Eisensteins and the Daniel Schmachenbergers, because I always consider it, there's an umbrella of, issues, and, some people are really confident discussing one, they're passionate about one or two or three, but it's the people who can, Daniel Schmachenberger, oh my gosh, I became obsessed with him a few years ago, and I'm like, if I could just talk to him, the world will be saved. It was that kind of thing. And then I started finding other people who were speaking like him, who understood across all levels, and how to connect all the dots. And that's really what started me on this path. It's kind of like these people are out there. These people who understand what's at stake and how to fix it all are out there. Why are they not in a cohesive group? Why are they not having conversations all around the world? And now it's happening, because we're having this conversation. But I think it was Doc Time or Michael, I can't remember. So I apologize. Or Marco, who basically said, there's 1,000 of these. I think it was Doc Time, 1,000. There's probably 1,000 groups having conversations. Maybe not exactly what we're talking about, but at that same level. Like, this is the pivotal, like, crunch time. We can either do something about this and create a better narrative for the future, or we can sit back and, in a couple of years and we regret, like, shit, we had all this at our disposal. We had full alignment and we didn't do anything with it, and why? Why? Because we're afraid, because we don't want to rock the boat. I see that most systems right now are in a state of crumbling, because there's so much happening on the global scale. It's unavoidable that everything is about to change again. Not maybe as drastically as COVID, when everything closed down and everybody had to kind of acclimate in a second, but I think it's going to be more of a gradual shift to, something that leads to positivity for humanity versus what COVID led to. And it's almost like that was in preparation for humanity to have to face these collective, simultaneous events. So sorry, I have so many people in my house. Whatever, I'm
You're
speaking.
good, Sienna. You're good. Michael, you were next when you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really believe that we have the strong foundation of a serious think tank operation happening where we're welcoming these experts, we're welcoming the younger people, and we're providing the goal setting to focus in important ways, as Marco so well described. And there's, I believe in no accidents, really, that there's a reason Doc Time has been studying this area for 30 years. I mean, he could be the person with a serious solution, and we're helping to welcome that in by us being present. I recommend that we host another meeting weekly with such urgency in mind. I don't know if it would be Monday nights or Tuesday nights, perhaps, but I'm recommending that for our group. Thank you.
Marco? I agree, Michael, by the way. Totally agree. Marco, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my thought. I'll put my hand back up when I recoup.
All good. And I think, Sienna, your hand is just still up, but you're busy. So if you want to lower that, you can, or if you want to speak, you can. But in the meantime, I'm going to speak. Yeah, this is something that I think is very important, both for posterity and for us in the group now. And Michael, you actually just put a very good kind of put pin in it and bookend, because Doc Time kind of started here, or at least when I came in, Marco and he had already been kind of going through this. But so if we are the think tank, as Doc had said, it is us articulating this coming togetherness. And again, I don't like speaking in metaphors. I would kind of like practicals for the future, but essentially, like, the group we're looking for is us. And we're just growing this. And Doc and I have had many, again, honor and privilege all over the years, but we've had many conversations about this in terms of when we bring people together in a certain way that I suppose, and this is totally theoretical, but I suppose articulates some kind of, oh, Doc, you said a word earlier, you wrote a word earlier, alignment with the metrics available to us. And again, I really do think that Sienna nailed it there. So I'll actually land it with this part for me before I pass the feather on. And I do think, Jamin, when you're ready, if you are ready, but in the next like 7 minutes or something, it behooves us to kind of bookend this recording. But Sienna said it amazing. And I'll say the same thing. All of you except maybe Michael, which again, I'll tell you this story at some point. But, my kids, or the kids I'm not with at least right now, the younger two are 10 and 12. They will not finish. They're in grade 5, 6, going into grade 6, 7. I do not think in any way, shape, or form that they will finish traditional grade 12 or grade 12, JK to grade 12. And if that's the case, then that actually beats out the climate change emergency by, I don't know, a year or two. Not that it's a race, but that there, if you want sense of urgency, that Sienna, you've got me.
Wait, I need to know more context on that one, because the mom.
I just
Heather,
don't think. Yeah, no worries about that. I'll tell you about that later. But like, in no way, shape, or form can a grade 5 or a grade 6-year-old finish traditional education the way that we're future forecasting, right? It just doesn't make sense. They're going to graduate grade 12 going through like the nonsense. I mean, yours are a little older, but the younger two, yeah, there's no way.
If you consider that 2 of my kids went through the COVID lockdowns during middle school, and just the kind of the PTSD that comes with that. My daughter actually went through puberty without being able to be around any of her friends. But what transpired instead is almost like, minute by minute interaction. I mean, all of my kids basically have study groups with their friends now because they're so used to having this constant connection. But my concern is, the one-on-one connection is so significant. And as we, I still get, like little warnings from the school system, and it says, if we have to move back to online, here's the steps. And I'm like, why are they sending me this? I mean, I just got one of those last week. I was like,
Well, Sienna, as Doc and I and others have talked about, no, how about the next time we ever go back to online, it's us.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was
Right? I'm
is,
pretty sure there's 5 classes right here I can see, and that doesn't include me.
well, that is very, very relevant to, Hope and I had very, very, very big conversations about how to kind of fix all of it, and where to start. And to me, it's always been, identifying the systems that are broken, and then trying to figure out the simplest path forward to, find solutions to those problems. And right now, because everything is in such a huge state of flux, I mean, there's just more, I think, kind of compromise. There's more compromise that we're able to have, because once everything gets thrown up in the air with AI, oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys have read the articles about the prevalence of kids using AI to write their papers and to do all their schoolwork for them. It's just like, okay, so how do we even know what these kids are learning? We're spending.
When you're ready, Sienna, you raise Doc's hand on this, I'm sure.
Sorry, I'm very bad about muting.
No, don't worry about that, Sienna, but Doc, go ahead. Just because I don't want us to get lost down that rabbit hole on this recording. We'll do it. Yeah, sorry, Doc.
Current education system is brutal. It is hard on the students. It is hard on the teachers. It is impossible for the administrators, and it's run by a group of, I don't know, we won't even get into it. We do our children a service by giving them an alternative, but if the alternative goes out there and tries to recruit children, we're going to fail. What we have to do for all systems is replace them with what we can do outside of that system and wait for that system to fail. And it strongly is going to depend on how that system fails. So we can't afford the luxury of unifocusing everybody in the world on one topic, as much as it sounds good, but everybody in the world needs a voice on that topic and should be educated enough to choose a person who represents their opinion by proxy and can go to the room and talk about what things are. The whole idea of what I'm trying to do with the group theory is make sure that every group works on human scale with us as the individual humans. And if there's none of us in the room, we got to make more of us. But I'm sure there are more of us, because I don't believe any of the numbers we're given anymore. When I traveled this summer across country in the USA, I did a count of towns and number of people providing the activities that I saw as I traveled. And I came through the middle of the country, east to west. And what I found is that there's no way there's as much population in the United States as they tell us.
Yeah. Inflated.
Way inflated. And it's just one of those things where it's a new reality. The information that we've always counted on has to be questioned. But in doing so, you don't want to throw babies out with the bathwater. It's a matter of looking, not fixing things because you're putting too much attention to them and it's a system that's already dead, but creatively discussing alternatives and getting more and more people to choose their focus of interest, join our collective, and use Fibonacci as a repeating system so that we know what to expect, and measurement after the fact, not beforehand, so that we can recover what it was that actually happened, not make projections that we'll never accomplish. Okay, I had my final say. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, before I pass it to Jamin, would you like to say anything before we end the recording?
Excuse me. Yes, I'm truly inspired that we're all spending this time together. I recommend that we spend another evening or afternoon during the week together. Again, those that can make it, it's worth doing. And we're all covering these 2 hours really quickly together.
Yeah,
and we're
as
making good
Sienna and I
progress.
said, we
So
have
go ahead.
84 2-hour periods, right? No, Michael, finish up, but we have 84 2-hour periods in a 7-day week.
In a 7-day week? Wow, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
we have 84 2-hour periods.
Yeah, that's good thinking. But I'm inspired again. I'll help any way I can, and like if I can help host some breakout rooms downline, I'll be glad to help in that area. But I think we're on to something very important, and it's worth our time. And I appreciate everybody's time here today and the inspiration all of you have provided me. Thank you.
Sienna, do you want to go before I pass it to Marco and then Jamin? Okay, very good. Marco, go ahead. Love you, Sienna. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that we're definitely on the right track, and we just need to get to the next step where we're, like I said, get that first after party under our belt, and I'm sure that will increase exponentially. And also, we need to start, getting into the functional groups. And we've already come to the conclusion that, we're not trying to build a critical mass anymore of people working on these things. We have the critical mass. We need to get them into functional groups, and that's what Chizzy will do for us. And with that,
Yeah, no, of course, Marco. Just Lena, welcome back. We're just ending the recording, so you're right on time consciousness. But Jamin, would you like to walk us out?
Sure, I'm super grateful for everyone being here and for this amazing conversation. And I second what Marco had just said, which is it's time to get the first after party going. I think it will take off exponentially with a magnet like, Paul Beckwith, Daniel Schmachtenberger, Charles Eisenstein. Any of these folks would be a more than sufficient magnet. We just got to get going. We got to get moving on it, and it'll just take
ones we might not have heard of yet, right, Jamin?
Absolutely. I mean, Paul Beckwith is second tier, third tier, in the spectrum of, podcasters, YouTubers, and that's kind of ideal, to start with someone of that, of a few tens of thousands of audience. Start there, get the first after party going, watch it grow exponentially, and this will be the birth of Chizzy, and we'll never look back. Right? We'll only look back to say what took us so long, right? So let's get this party started. And thank you. Thanks everyone.
And with that too, I want to remind everyone.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Jamin.
Oh, I was just asking, should I end the recording now and then we start the afterglow?
Well, I was just before you enter the recording, and we'll do the awkward walkout my style or whatever. But just to remind everyone that the recording happens 12 p.m. PST every Friday, but it also starts at 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. Sorry, 7 a.m. PST, and then we start what is called right now the afterglow. But really, Jamin, this is the draft version of the after party. We're just doing it with ourselves first.
Exactly.
And in the meantime, strengthen the journey well to anyone who's listened, and please find your way here if this is at all resonated with you. But yes, Jamin, walk us out and end the recording, and we'll go to the afterglow, my friend.
Very good. All right. So great to see everyone. Thanks everyone for listening, and please tune into the afterglow starting immediately. Thanks everyone. Love you all. See you soon.